Good morning. So, Revelation chapter 4. My question this morning is, how do we worship Lord? Why do we worship the Lord? Where do we worship the Lord? Just how are we worshiping the Lord? And is it the way that He would have us to worship? In chapter 4, he says, John says, and immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. And round about the throne were 24 seats, and upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceed lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. And I'm not going to read about the beasts, but I will tell you, it says that in verse 8 that they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. And it says that when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. You know, a lot of times I feel like people are apprehensive to worship the Lord. And why? Because they're fearful of what others may think, because maybe they're not used to it and it's uncomfortable. I really don't know anyone's specific reason. Only you would know that. But I have some thoughts behind that. If it's uncomfortable for you, then you need to start alone. Because if you're not having an alone time with the Lord every day anyways, then where's that fellowship really at? It can't just be in church. It can't just be in front of people. God is a real God. He's a personable God, and He wants our attention on His own. He's an individual God and He's a collective God, but He is, again, our God. And if it's uncomfortable for you now, what do you think heaven is going to be like, right? And so, anyways, just let's get past that little side thought. Where should we worship? We should worship anywhere, and we should worship any time that we're in the presence of the Lord, which can be anywhere and any time, because He's always with us and He never leaves us. So you could be at home in your personal devotion time. You could be at work. You could be in church. You could be driving in a car. You could be exercising. It doesn't matter. There's never a wrong place to worship the Lord. So we have anywhere and any time, because He's always with us. So at any moment we can step into the throne room and be in His presence. Okay, why should we worship Him? Oh, we just heard so much. It says because He's worthy. God is magnificent. Did you see like His description where He's sitting on a throne? He's a king. He's worthy. He's powerful. He's honorable. He's glorious. Like, there's so many great things about God, and He's what? Holy, holy, holy. And then how should we worship God? Well, I believe we should worship God with great detail. I think we should worship God distinctly. I think we should worship Him because of His deity, because of who He is. We should worship Him because of His divinity. We should worship Him because, like, in dignity, right? And dutifully. He wants us to worship Him. There was several verses that came to my mind, and then I had pulled some, but it says in Psalm 96:9, it says, Oh, worship the Lord in the beauty of His holiness. Fear before Him all the earth. And then again, it tells us in Psalm 29:2 to give glory to the Lord because of His name, and worship Him in the beauty of His holiness. God's holiness is beautiful, and He's worthy of our worship. And wouldn't His people, my thought behind it was that our worship will reflect how we see God. If we see Him as worthy and mighty and powerful and wonderful and holy, aren't we going to want to worship before Him? They fell down. They were like on their faces before God. It is okay to get on your face before God. It is okay to get on your knees before God. It is okay to cry to God, to sing for God, to lift your hands for God, to dance for God. It is okay to do those things. He is pleased with them. And some more verses I wanted to read. First Chronicles 16:29. He says, Give unto the Lord the glory, do unto His name, bring an offering and come before Him, worship the Lord in the beauty of His holiness, fear before Him all the earth. Like, this is our God. How do we see Him? Do we see Him worthy of worship? For thou art worthy, is said, to receive honor and glory and power. I'm not there. I might have messed that up a little, but that's how we're to see God. for who he is. And it brought me to some verses that always come to my mind, but I heard them yesterday in church. And in Isaiah chapter 6, it tells us in the year King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. God is on the throne. He's high and lifted up. And of course it says, who the seraphims were above him. And it said, one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. This is who our God is. And then I didn't get to go into it this morning, but if we're going to see him for who he is, maybe we ought to see ourselves for who we are. Right? And Isaiah said, then said I, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. But I can't go into that day, but my whole point is to see the Lord for who he is. All right? See him for who he is and worship him for who he is. He's worthy. All right? Take that time with the Lord today.